Developers are people, and people, at the end of the day, make mistakes. Inspired by Helldivers 2 and its recent Sony-led controversy to attach a PSN account to PC players, we're looking at 10 instances when developers simply got it wrong. As an appendage to each entry, though, we're only including instances where the developer backtracks. But as you'll see, not every U-turn restores lost goodwill. Helldivers 2 PSN account backtrack. Sony came within a hair of tanking their runaway success of the year with a perplexing requirement for PC users to link a PSN account to Steam to play Helldivers 2. If you didn't already own a PSN account, it would be mandatory to make one to carry on playing. Sony's act of self-sabotage caused widespread discontent, of course, but was also set to lock players from the 177 countries without PSN access out of the game. Helldivers 2 developer Arrowhead, fronted by CEO Jordan Leithart, has shown transparency on the situation, admitting to knowledge of the requirements 6 months prior to its announcement. Their honesty has quieted cynicism, and together with the policy's reversal, review bombing has ceased, with sales now eclipsing 12 million continuing. Killzone 2's pre-rendered trailer. Pre-rendered trailers. Nowadays, disclaimers like "not actual gameplay footage" are required, so we, as cash-paying consumers, can distinguish if what we're seeing is genuine. But not so in 2005, when Sony unveiled Killzone 2's official trailer at E3, stating categorically that the footage shown was running in real time on PlayStation 3. Guerrilla knew this wasn't the case. The footage supplied to Sony was proof of concept, if anything. Still, Guerrilla didn't think anyone would believe it was real. However, they did, in their droves. Guerrilla clarified in 2008 that the footage at least wasn't fake. It was created with PlayStation 3's capability in mind, but transparency from them and Sony back in 2005 would have been appreciated even though the finished game turned out to be a graphical marvel. Its legacy as one of the best-looking games of the PS3 generation intact. The release of Cyberpunk 2077. It's well documented by now the shoddy state Cyberpunk 2077 originally released in back in 2020. Shareholder impatience, fan pressure, and a string of delays led CD Projekt Red to crumble, knowing full well the game was unfit for mass consumption. Cruising through Night City on last-gen hardware was laughably impossible, with bugs ranging from game-breaking to, well, NPCs T-posing. But credit where it's due, CD Projekt Red dug in.
Gives us a little time.
You talk too much.
Through a string of free updates and major overhauls, plus last year's excellent Phantom Liberty expansion, Cyberpunk 2077 is in fantastic shape. A true redemption story for the ages. No Man's Sky. Without the promises. Speaking of redemption, Hello Games caught some flack in 2016 when Space Maraudathon No Man's Sky released with a dearth of content. Unlike Cyberpunk 2077, the game worked perfectly fine, but many expected features were noticeably absent, multiplayer capability included. The promise of 18.6 quintillion unique planets to explore wasn't all that enthralling given that there was barely anything to do once you landed. Much like CD Projekt Red, Hello Games bunkered down, and since 2016 have released no less than 40 updates for No Man's Sky, transforming its original incarnation to something beyond the small team's original vision. Unity pricing scandal. Unity is among the foremost game engines, with the company providing a suite of industry-leading development tools, but despite their prominence, they felt the need to squish game developers' already thin margins via a reformed pricing structure. Controversy was well and truly sparked in September of 2023 as they roadmapped charges calculated on a per-install basis, off the back of game downloads and revenue thresholds. Worse still is Unity announced these changes with little to no warning. Developers had minimal time to prepare for wholesale changes to their bottom line, especially those who have seen sales success with their games running the risk of receiving hefty retroactive bills. Following protests, the pricing model was revamped, then reversed, almost altogether. And although goodwill has been lost, market share is largely unchanged, with the software still being widely used. Inkbound devs removing microtransactions. After credible success to Inkbound, dev Shiny Shoes' prior game Monster Train, it is befuddling why monetization schemes including FOMO battle passes and cosmetic shops were introduced for their roguelike co-op RPG follow-up. Now microtransactions tend to rile players up the wrong way, even if the extra monetization policies don't function as pay-to-win. There's seediness to charging players more when they've already shelled out on the base game, and in Inkbound's case, a game in early access. To Shiny Shoes' credit, they recognized player sentiment was trending against these policies and took action to remove them by the end of October 2023, replacing them with DLC instead. Xbox One's 24-hour online check-in and used games policy. Well known as Microsoft's botched Xbox One launch, and principle behind much of the pushback prior to release was the console's requirement to check in online every 24 hours. Microsoft advised that was necessary to check whether players still owned a license for the game they were playing, but doubters rightly pointed out that should you experience a loss of internet connection or didn't have the internet altogether, you'd be locked out of playing games that you've purchased.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message if you don't like it?
If you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device.
Anger behind daily online authentication was worsened via Microsoft's view on used games too, with their plans to restrict the lending, sale, sharing, or renting of games between players. Backlash was huge, and Microsoft sensationally backtracked. Stalker 2's NFT plans. GSC Game World caused a ruckus when they jumped on the NFT bandwagon in late 2021. Their plan for Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl was to commoditize in-world items for players to buy and sell at their whim. In GSC's defense, as an independent studio desperate for funds, they saw NFTs as extra avenues for income. But players weren't receptive. At the time, gameplay for the long-awaited follow-up to 2009's Stalker hadn't even been shown, so the emphasis on owning gloves, tattoos, skins, badges was pointless. GSC posted a lengthy rebuttal, before reversing the policy via a separate update just 90 minutes later. Escape from Tarkov's PVE paywall. This massively popular extraction shooter regularly attracts 85,000-plus concurrent players despite remaining in beta for almost a decade. With its recently launched Unheard Edition, there's a new PvE mode, but developer Battle State Games decided to lock this mode to anyone who can't or won't fork out the $250 required to access the new update. This stance was incredibly irksome to those who believed such a mode should be free for all. But it was especially troublesome for owners of the Edge of Darkness Edition, which promised access to all future DLC without further charge. Strangely, studio head Nick Boyanov claims he didn't foresee such a negative reaction from players. Battlestate Games ushered in a swift U-turn, making PvE accessible for Edge of Darkness owners. Studio Wildcard's Ark Survival Ascended bundle. Studio Wildcard have put a lot of work into their Unreal Engine 5 rework of action-adventure survival epic Ark Survival Evolved, and players were understandably hyped given the developer's pledge to make this a free update. Well, they instead decided to lump Ark Survival Ascended in with a pre-order bundle for Ark 2, which at the time of writing this has been delayed until Q4 2024. The bundle cost $50, so not free, and of course held the requirement to take a leap of faith on Ark 2, a leap many a player refused to make given the lack of gameplay seen for the sequel thus far. DLC would cease to function if buying the game anew too, which certainly doesn't seem fair. Studio Wildcard canceled the bundle, but in its place was a $60 package including the UE5 rework plus several DLC upgrades. It's a better proposition for sure, but it's still perplexing how Studio Wildcard are charging $10 more than the ill-received bundle they canceled. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time. right here on GamingBolt.